Folk music in India dates so far back, it's impossible to know exactly when Indian folk music truly began. Some say it could be as early as 500 BC. That's 3,500 years ago. It is believed music was the preferred way of transferring information from different communities to others, as well as from one generation to the next, before paper and print were used. Therefore, Indian folk music often communicates the vast cultural and religious history of the country. There are multiple official languages spoken in India, more than any other country, so you can only imagine how many different types of folk music there are. Because the country is so large, and the history so rich, folk music varies largely between the different regions and communities of India. Some of the first songs were composed by literary writers, poets, and even religious leaders in order to share their written art or their theological views. In other cases, songs became famous within certain communities, and those communities continue to cherish that music for generations. A large amount of Indian folk music is strongly connected to traditional dance. Some folk music and dance that we are going to talk about today are Bhangra, Lavani, Biyogit, and Carnatic music. Let's take a deeper look. Carnatic music is music from southern India. It is most commonly known to be vocal music, and if it's not vocal music, the style of singing is imitated by the instruments. Carnatic music is mostly improvised, meaning it's not written down. The performers create the music as they play and perform. Carnatic music is considered folk music because of its historical and cultural importance, but it has actually become one of the two large schools of Indian classical music, the other being Hindustani. The four basic elements of Carnatic music are Shruti, which means pitch, Swara, defined as the musical sound of a single note, Raga, the modal or melodic system, and Tala, the rhythmic cycle. Carnatic music is usually performed by a small ensemble. Let's take a look at some of the main instruments in Carnatic music. The bass of Carnatic music is played by a tampura, a large neck stringed instrument where the neck is pointing upwards. The tampura does not play the melody or rhythm of the music like the rest of the instruments do, but it acts like a drone, a constant pitch and rhythmic cycle under the song that never changes. The mridnagam is a percussion instrument used to emphasize the rhythmic elements of the song. It is a double-sided drum which is usually made of jackfruit wood. It's played resting almost parallel to the floor. Let's take a listen. The voice is the main solo instrument of Carnatic music. Vocalists use swara, sometimes described as a staircase of pitch from low to high, similar to a musical scale in Western music. The vocalists use gamakas, which are different ways to connect the pitches, with variations of slides. In this exercise, we are going to learn the 7 swaras of Carnatic music. Now, just before we get started, let's give ourselves a framework. because in Western music we learn music one way, and it's not the only way that music exists. It exists in a completely different way. It was created before Western European music was created. So given that framework, I just want to compare a few things in order to make it a little bit easier to understand. So in Western music, we have what are called scales, okay? And you've probably heard of them. They often are categorized by do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si, sol, fa, mi, re, do. Now, those are 8 notes, one repeating from the bottom that's an octave up, okay? Do and do. The frequency is higher, so that's a higher note, okay? Otherwise, there are 7 different notes that make up the whole scale, with the 8th note repeating the first note. So, in Carnatic music, we have 7 swaras, okay? Sa, ri, ga, ma, pa, da, and ni. Now, just as in musical scale, a major or minor scale in Western music, do and the rest of the scale have to do with where the starting point is. So if I sing this note and this is our starting note, we have do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. If I start down here and this is where I want my starting note, here we have do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si, do. I can go higher or lower. I have different starting points, okay? But the scale, once we know our starting point, the scale is the same pattern of notes, okay? And that's the same in Carnatic music as well, okay? The Shruti gives the bottom note, and it's the instrument that stays a steady pitch. It's like a drone, okay? So we get that note. Listening to the drone beneath us, we're gonna get our starting note. Take a listen. Instead of do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si, do in Western music, which makes up the major scale, we're going to learn about one of the scales in Carnatic music. They aren't called scales, they're called ragas. Now, the raga that we're going to learn about today is called Maya, Malava, Gola. And this scale has a very unique sound. First, let's learn the notes that make up this raga. The notes have different names as well. The notes are sa, ri, ga, ma, pa, da, and ni. Now, these notes are in different intervals than our major scale. Instead, to make up this raga, we use 7 notes in this order. Sa, ri, ga, ma, pa, da, and ni. Then we repeat sa, which in Western music would be an octave away from our first note, where we get from our shruti, our bottom drone. So let's listen to that. Sa, ri, ga, ma, pa, da, ni, sa, sa. And that makes up this raga. So let's build this from our bottom note sa. Let's build it together. I'll say it and you sing after me. You repeat. Sa, ri. Repeating that. Sa, ri, sa, ri, sa, ri. Now adding ga. Sa, ga, ma, all together. Sa, re, ga, ma, sa, re, ga, ma, sa, re, ga, ma. Pa will be our next swara, our next note in this sequence. Pa. Let's try that from sa. Ready? Here we go. We have sa, re, ga, ma, pa. From sa to pa. Ready? Here we go. We have sa, re, ga, ma, pa. Again. Sa, re, ga, ma, pa. Adding da. Da. Let's try that from the beginning. Sa, re, ga, ma, pa, da. Last time before we go on. Sa, re, ga, ma, pa, da. On our next knee is a jump closer to our top saw. Re, sa. The whole thing sounds like this. Feel free to join in or listen once and then join in. I'll do it twice. Sa, re, ga, ma, pa, da, ni, sa. Sa, re, ga, ma, pa, da, ni, sa. Now that is an ascending swara, meaning going from down a lower pitch to a higher pitch. We can also have it descending. We start at the top. Sa, re, ga, pa, ma, ga, re, sa. Let's sing an ascending and a descending raga. Again, the notes are, the swaras are sa, re, ga, ma, pa, da, ni, sa. Here we go. Ready? And sa, re, ga, ma, pa, da, ni, sa, re, da, pa, ma, da, re, sa. Bhangra is a folk dance and musical tradition that started in the 1800s from Punjab, a region in northern India. Bhangra is known as the most energetic and joyful folk dance, and it is a combination of many folk dances from all around Punjab. The lyrics are sung by the dancers. These lyrics are short sets that describe stories from around the region. These lyrics often talk about love and patriotism and create a feeling of celebration. Let's take a look at some of the instruments that accompany the high-energy dancers. The dole instrument is a large, double-sided drum. The dole drum provides the main beat of the music. One side of the drum has thicker skin, therefore it has a deeper sound than the other. Two sticks are used to play the drum. One is called a daga, which is thicker, and it is used to play the deeper and lower side. The thinner stick is called a tibi, and is used to play the higher side. Another traditional instrument in Bhangra is the tumbi. The tumbi is a single-stringed instrument made from wood. It's fairly small and uses a metallic string, therefore the pitch is very high. Let's listen to someone playing the tumbi. In the 20th and 21st century, Bhangra has become very popular, and therefore much of the music from Bhangra has started to incorporate more modern and even some Western instruments. In Bhangra today, you can hear the sitar, the guitar, mandolin, flute, saxophone, and even synthesizers. Bihu or Biyugit is a dance of an indigenous folk music of the region of Assam in northeastern India. While Bihu is celebrated around the year, the biggest Bihu festival is celebrated to mark the beginning of spring. The dance itself is characterized by a quick and energetic movement of the hands and feet, often moving in a circular motion. The songs tell stories of nature, as well as describe the life and experience of the Assamese people. The Bihu music and dance is often performed by both men and women, usually of younger generations. Here are some of the main instruments heard in Bihu music. This instrument is called a gogona. Made of bamboo, this traditional instrument is placed in the mouth with the left hand and at the same time is plucked with the right hand. The combination of air and plucking creates different vibrations that create a really unique sound. Take a listen. The bansuri is a flute with one mouth hole and 6 finger holes, made from a single piece of bamboo wood. The bansuri can vary in size. The larger the instrument, the lower the sound, and the smaller the instrument, the higher the sound. The bansuri is used to play the melody over the very active percussion section of Bihu music.
Soy dia garite hai boy ori sipo kolina ho koli sipo kolina ho koli ek loge jao soy dia gari loi buli.
Now, for this exercise, we are going to be recreating a tumbi-like instrument, the one-stringed instrument. Now, there's a few ways that you can do it. Before this activity, you're going to need 2 pencils, ideally pencils because we don't want anything on the way in the main part of the pencil. We don't want any sort of grips or hooks or anything. And a stretchy rubber band, and a water bottle. Now you can also use a wooden ruler if you have one. Plastic rulers aren't quite the same, but the wooden ruler will give you a really nice effect. I don't have one, so I'm going with a plastic water bottle. And when you're looking around for these items in your house, you got to make sure that your rubber band will comfortably stretch the length of your plastic bottle or your ruler, and just be careful. Have a parent with you to make sure you don't snap the rubber band. Okay, so if you can get it from one way to the other, it's probably long enough. Okay, so after you get all your materials collected, we're going to put the rubber band, holding it on top of the cap of the water bottle or the plastic bottle that you're using, and we're going to hook it on the base. Now, if you have a water bottle with these kind of round things, that's actually really great because it holds the rubber band in place. So I'm just getting that on, and I want it to go all the way around the water bottle vertically like this. Here is on one side, and here it is on the other. Now, once we have your rubber band on your water bottle, we're going to take your first pencil, doesn't matter which one it is, and slide it in. And we're actually going to bring it all the way to the bottom of the water bottle. Okay, and it's going to hold there in place. If you don't have these mounds, that's okay. You're just going to have to hold on to this pencil at the bottom of the base here. Okay, it'll stay mostly on its own, but you might have to do more to hold it while we're playing the instrument, okay? So I'm going to just connect mine right down here. Then I'm going to take my second pencil. Now I'm going to slide my second pencil more towards the top of the water bottle, not quite up here where it's loose, but where it's going to be taut, where it's the rubber band's going to be pulled a little bit. Now that we've created our instrument, let's talk about how stringed instruments work, all right? Stringed instruments, whether they have one string like this instrument on the tuba, or whether they have 6 strings like a guitar or a banjo, they can have 4, and you can even have a 12-string guitar. So it gets a lot more complicated than this, but the basic idea is that this string is going to resonate and create a sound depending on the length of the string. Now, when we're not using a rubber band, when we're using a metallic string or any sort of plastic synthetic string, we're going to use our fingers to press down and move our fingers up and down the instrument to get different sounds. Now, when a violinist or a guitarist is moving up and down, what's happening is as the string gets closer to the bottom, the higher the pitch is going to be. Let's take a listen. And the further away I move my pencil, the longer the string is, make sure you got to keep it tight, the lower it's going to be. Now, usually the violins and guitars that you used to have frets, meaning they have markings. And those signify where our fingers need to go up the neck of the instrument in order to get a higher or lower pitch. The tuba does have frets, our instrument does not. So we're going to have to do a little bit of experimenting on how to create different pitches on our instrument. Something that's also interesting is that every instrument's a little different. The tuba is made out of wood, and it would have a hole in the middle where when the string vibrates, it could resonate and project louder than our instrument. This instrument here is lacking what's called a resonating body. The resonating body really amplifies. It's a natural amplifier to the sound. Think about when you're singing down the street versus if you went to the Grand Canyon and you sang in the canyon. Because of the acoustics in the area, because you're surrounded by mountains, your voice is actually going to project more than it would without those surroundings. So creating a hole in the instrument essentially is like putting your voice in the canyon, and it starts to echo and amplifies back. It makes it louder. All right. This is not, however, an amplified instrument electronically. There's nothing. The tuba does not get plugged into anything. Okay. Those are called acoustical instruments, meaning they don't have any sort of electric quality to make them louder. So let's try and to create pitches from our handmade tuba instruments. Here we go. When you have your instrument on your lap, make sure that all your pencils are aligned. This is at the bottom, the base of your water bottle. If you don't have the mounds, make sure it's right here at the bottom, and you're going to have to hold that with your left hand, like this. Okay? If it's resting here, you're still going to want to hold your instrument at the base. Keep it steady. Okay? Now, this is where we're going to be moving. Now, the only reason that you would have to pull your pencil away from the instrument is to keep the rubber band tight. Depending on how tight your rubber band is on your water bottle, the less you're going to have to pull. Okay? If your rubber band's looser like mine is, you might have to pull a little bit to get a better sound. Okay? This is the experimenting that you're going to do. So for now, just practice moving your pencil along. I'm holding it So the nice easy grip, and I'm eventually going to want to loosen my pointer finger. Just moving it along, moving it along. Okay, you're never going to want to go this far because you're going to lose the tightness of the rubber band. You want to stay here where the body of the water bottle gets larger. Okay, and move that, practicing keeping your left hand still and your right hand moving. Alright? Good. And don't be afraid to get your hand close to the string, because now we're going to start plucking it. Okay? So starting farther away at the top of where the water bottle gets bigger, we're going to start plucking our instrument. Now I have to move my rubber band, I have to make it a little bit tighter by pulling my pencil away from the bottle. Okay? If yours is really tight, don't push it too much, just keep it close to the bottle. Okay? And while I hold my pencil, I'm going to practice making a sound. Try that right there. Dun 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 dun. See if you can find that pitch on your water bottle, on your instrument. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Good. Now let's bring our pencil slightly closer to us, closer to the base, and let's take a listen. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It gets a little higher. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now you'll find if you're not keeping this hand still, it's going to be less consistent. We want to try and practice getting the same pitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You really got to use your ears. Let's bring it even closer to the pencil. Now remember, you're down here, okay? And you want it a little tighter, you're going to get a louder sound here. So I'm bringing it all the way down close to my hand, okay? And then I'm going to try again. Practicing not moving my right hand except for my finger. So once you're getting comfortable in multiple places of your bottle, low, middle, and high. Now you don't want to get too close because you're going to miss the sound, okay? You got to have it far enough that it has enough space to vibrate and ring, okay? This string vibrating is what's causing the pitch to sound. The movement is. And how long the string is and how tight the string is determines how low or how high our pitch is. So we were just experimenting with 3 different pitches, low, middle, and high. Now, in Western music, what we like to talk about when we learn music in the United States, for example, is we talk about scales. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si, do. Let's see if we can take our instrument and go low from a lower pitch to high, like this. Give it a try with me. Keep practicing. And now let's see if we can go from high pitch to low. Let's try again.